Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
When it comes to getting spare parts for military systems, it's not always as easy as simply placing an order. Sometimes the original manufacturers no longer exist, and sometimes wait times are excruciatingly long. That's one reason the Navy wants to make the best use it can of the materials it already owns. A new effort by Naval Supply Systems Command aims to help do that by reusing as many items as possible from decommissioned units, instead of sending them away for disposal as surplus property. Robert Medina is the Deputy Director for NAVSUP's West Coast Consumable Asset Reutilization Program, and Doug Murphy is the Material Management and Warehouse Utilization Product and Service Lead. They talked about this problem with Federal News Network's Jared Serbu. Murphy speaks first.
NAVSUP weapon system support, has all these potential units that can offload and units are both afloat that are carrying these aviation consumables and those ashore stations. They will take a look at their inventory profile and they'll run it through a program that is screening them for demands that they've had and any potential future demands that they may need. And that'll give them a result based off of what that entire profile is of things that need to come out of their inventory and go into this CART program so that, the Navy and the Navy Working Capital Fund can gain additional visibility and availability from other units. And to kind of clarify that a little bit is most of the time, and there's a little bit of, not always the case here, but the majority of the time when that material is attached to an afloat unit or an ashore station, it's kind of locked in. There is a sourcing wheel, that can do lateral support, but for the most part, those are attached to that station to support those platforms on, aircraft or what's aboard that ship. Once it comes out and goes into CART, then it has much broader visibility from all naval forces.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of the trends that we're seeing. So when we first started this offload program, a lot of material, as we said, is locked in. And so when we started receiving this material into our warehouse, it was completely visible. And so we would have a scenario where we would post the material into our warehouse, and not even an hour later, a back order would fill that requisition, and it was going out that same day or next day.
One thing I wonder here is that, there's some pretty logical cost savings, I would imagine, here in just in the fact of preventing the Navy from needing to make new purchases for items that it otherwise would be buying from the market. But do you also have cases where you're able to recover and make available items that the Navy couldn't buy if it wanted to? In other words, things that are no longer manufactured or the OEM is out of business, et cetera. I don't know if you have visibility into what you've made available down to that level, but is that the sort of thing that you're running into?
I would imagine that is definitely a possibility. I haven't seen any data that shows, the not available but filled from CART. But yeah, definitely, like you said, it's definitely a possibility that
I know it's happening. Because, as I said, there's a lot of back order demand for stuff that hasn't been filled. Industry hasn't been able to fill that demand. It hasn't been contracted out. And so when we see those where it gets checked in and checked out on the same day, those are what we're talking about where, there's a backlog and industry can't fill it. And those are the ones that are going out and filling those requisitions today.
What would you all say have been some of the biggest enablers to the successes that you've had recently? And that could be anything. I mean, is it a new IT system or support from leadership? What has it been that has allowed this program to be so successful recently?
From my perspective down here in San Diego, it's really Robert's team, him and Lieutenant Commander Copeland up in Ventura County, running this whole team and getting this CART process off the ground, up and running up at Port Hueneme. They've very organized, very just kind of forward leaning into the possibility and what this could do for the Navy. So I think from a leadership, management, and an overall team involvement from all the folks up there, I think has made this a very successful endeavor from the West Coast. And it's not, it's not perfect. There's still things that can be tweaked and improved, just with, organizational structure and some things like that we continue to work on, and maybe some process improvements and things like that. But for the short amount of time that we've been running from the West Coast, I think they've done an excellent job up there.
I think my biggest enabler was a commanding officer that we had prior to our current one, Captain Corey Shem. He came out here for a site visit, and he laid eyes on this warehouse facility, which is pretty new and standardized for current warehousing across the Navy. And there was a lot of real estate up here, a lot of opportunity. And so he pitched the idea because he knew about the CART program more than what we did. And so with that idea, he started it all and said, hey, we want to run this program from Port Hueneme. How do we stand this up? And it was about a year-long process where we had to kind of go back and forth and saying, hey, can we do this? Do we have a proof of concept? And we did, right? We started with a small offload of a local unit here in Port Hueneme that was offloading, that was going to dermo a whole bunch of material. And we started with that. And we proved right away that, hey, it can be done out of Port Hueneme. Having the team up here who was able to, like Doug said, lean into that and do what we do seamlessly, it helped out a lot. And it proved to leadership that we can do it. And that's why we set up the West Coast CART.
And Robert, when you talk about offloading a unit, tell folks a little bit more about what a unit can be. I mean, can that be anything from an aircraft carrier to a shore unit and everything in between? Or what do you all typically tackle when you go to a unit?
Exactly. It could be anything in between. So I'll give you a couple examples of offloads that we've done so far. We started off with our first one, which I mentioned was a local unit. They were an expeditionary command, part of the CB battalions here. They had an excess material that they no longer needed. And a lot of it got screened. And I would say about 20% of it was still valid inventory that there was a demand, and we were able to offload it. Our next offload was the USS Tripoli. That was a CVN. We've done air stations such as NAS Lemoore. We've even gone as far as smaller units like the LCS ships, littoral combat ships, and Marine Corps, Marine Aviation Logistics Squadrons as well.
That's Doug Murphy, along with Robert Medina from the Naval Supply Systems Command's Consumable Asset Reutilization Program, speaking with Federal News Network's Jared Serbu. We'll post their full interview at federalnewsnetwork.com.